Hello, Dr. Fixmaster here. Today we're going to fix a startup or a no start condition in a 1998 Jeep Cherokee XJ, which applies also to 1997 to 2001. Now, my adventure had me playing around with the electrical and the fuel delivery system. We started with the electrical, so let's get there first. Okay, so my Jeep wasn't starting. It just died on me while it was driving, and I couldn't figure out at first what it was. My research took me first to the crankshaft position sensor, which is located right here. It's in the engine compartment next to the master cylinder for the brake. So if you see that connector right there, this one right here, that piece from here that goes down on top of the bell housing is the crankshaft position sensor. I turned out to get a replacement for that without needing to, which is kind of a bummer. I should have did a little more work before I went and did that, but that's how it goes. So I've now got a new one. I'm putting the old one under the seat of the car, since that is something that, if it fails, will kill your vehicle. But it turns out that I didn't need to. The test that I did to make sure that that was okay was to unplug that connector and test while cranking, test the signal coming out on the middle connector. There's three connectors, or there's three metal signal lines going in there. The one in the middle should produce a 5-volt square wave when the vehicle is operating correctly, and the crankshaft position sensor is delivering back to you a signal that will be interpreted by the ignition computer and send the right sparks to the vehicle. So to save yourself a lot of time, it's easy to come out here and just put a timing light around the signal lines. So on the other side of the engine is where the spark plugs plug in. You can see them all here with a distributor cap there. Just put your timing light around each of those and make sure that the light flashes when you're cranking the engine. I did that test and found out that they were all good. I was getting a good spark out to all the cylinders. So that turned out not to be my problem. Okay, so what do you need for an engine to run? You need fuel, you need spark, and you need timing. I've already checked the spark to make sure that was showing up. That leaves me fuel. So the first thing I did was I went to AutoZone and just got a gauge set, and I'm going to show you how to hook that up here, and you can easily see how much pressure your fuel pump is delivering to the fuel rail, which is what you see right here. This is your fuel rail, and there's a Schrader valve right there that you can plug into with a gauge, and you can see exactly how much pressure, which is specified at 50 psi plus or minus, I think it's 49 psi plus or minus 5. So if you don't get that showing up here when you turn the ignition key on, then something's wrong down the line. And that can be either a bad fuel pump, it can be a bad fuel pump relay. I'll show you how to check that real quick. But that's really what it means. So I'm going to screw that thing on here just to show you, and then we'll go to. Right there, the gauge is plugged into the fuel rail coming over here. So I knew there was a problem when I turned the ignition key on, and I saw 0 pressure when cranking. Wasn't starting, obviously, and that means I don't have any fuel being delivered to the cylinder, so that's not going to work. More than likely it's the fuel pump if it does that, but we still have to check to make sure the right electrical signals are making it to the fuel pump to make sure it's not some other thing. You don't want to change out your fuel pump assembly. It's an expensive repair, a lot of work, if you've just got a bad relay or something. So let's look at the relay. I'm going to share with you guys a gem that I discovered just by watching some other YouTube videos about car repairs and diagnosing. I can't remember which site it was, but they did a whole bunch of tests and this very complicated problem, and it turned out to be this bundle of cables that runs parallel to the fuel rail, and it runs right down next to the exhaust port out here, and that thing gets super hot. And the cable in a Cherokee like mine very often can just lean into that and get melted all to pieces, and it shorts. You get shorts, and it's a pretty difficult thing to diagnose once that happens. So I saw that and looked on mine, and I could actually see the beginnings of that failure happening. So I wrapped mine up and zip tied it off of there so that it's well away from that exhaust port, just a little. Okay, over on this side of the vehicle is the fuse box. Now this is going to look non-standard to you because I've got 3 big fuses here. This is in association with the IPF headlights that I put on that drive directly from the battery. So my lights are brighter because I got tired of the dim Cherokee lights. I'm going to open this up, position it out of the way, and expose the relays. This one right here in the corner is the fuel, the fuel pump relay. So it's all 12 volts over here. So on the fuel pump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off because you don't want to, like I said, don't want to replace a fuel filter if the only thing that's bad is the relay. Now you can test to see if your fuel pump works okay by shorting out. I'm going to point to it exactly. I'm just going to use the, okay, it's like I was saying before, it's the terminal on the very top here, and then the one on the opposite side over there. I'm just going to do it with a paper clip to just so that you can see it. But you'll notice when I connect these together, you'll be able to hear the fuel pump running without the engine going. Hopefully you can hear that. So I did that too with the pressure gauge connected, and it was still 0. So obviously my fuel pump is running, but it's producing 0 pressure. That's a problem. So that still doesn't tell me exactly what condition my relay is in. So what you want to do is, once you get familiar with what that sounds like, you can just plug this baby back in, and all you have to do is turn the ignition key on, because the Jeep runs the fuel pump for a couple of seconds to pump up the fuel rail when you first turn it on, and you can hear the fuel pump going. And if you have somebody else do it for you, when they turn the key on and off, you'll feel this relay click and unclick, and it corresponds exactly to when you can hear the fuel relay running. If you get that, then you know that your relay's okay. So having gone through those things to know that my relay's okay, my electrical signal's getting to my pump are okay, my pump is running, and I'm just getting 0 fuel pressure, that means my pump is out. So I'm going to go ahead and cough up the cash to have somebody else. There are other videos online that show how to drop the tank and replace the fuel pump unit, and I'll just refer you to those. But that's pretty much it. This is the hardest part, is the diagnosis. Well, that's debatable, I guess. Tanks are kind of hard to drop because those bolts that hold them in get super rusty, and they put Loctite on them or something that make them super hard to take off. So anyway, I'll let you know how it goes when I get that thing put in. Okay, so here we are on a cold January morning, and the fuel pump has been installed. So let's see what happens. You already kind of know, don't you? Fires right up. So this one was a fuel pump, and whatever you do, do not install an AirTex fuel pump in your car, because I put one of those in mine 2 years ago. It lasted for 2 whole years. The original equipment part lasted for 17 years plus. So, lesson learned. Just spend the money and buy a good part if it's really hard to get to. Moral of the story with this is, don't go chasing down electrical problems with the spark
If you've got a fuel issue, check at the cylinders. Check for spark, check for fuel pressure, and then you can trace the errors or the problems down the line and save yourself a whole lot of time and money. Electromechanical components like a fuel pump are probably going to go out sooner than a crankshaft position sensor, which is just a Hall effect sensor with a wire on it. So anyway, those are the lessons learned. Happy fixing!